Welcome to the Board Wrap-Up Show for the month of March. I'm Sean Anderson, your host, and Superintendent Shelley Arrott with us in this very important edition of the Board Wrap-Up Show. They're all important. We have some very important matters to discuss on this episode, and we start with the election of board officers. Judy Troop, unopposed, and took the oath of office. Can you tell us how that went?
We talked about this, I think, in January. Judy is one of our board members from Ward 3, which is the Woodlands Elementary area, was unopposed for election in February. So she was sworn in for her next 5-year term in February, and then we always elect officers. And currently, Dr. David Kincaid has been serving as our president. So there was a nomination for Dawn Newsom to serve as president. Robin Riley will be our vice president. And then always at this time, we go ahead and elect our board clerk and deputy clerk. And typically those are employees here at the board. And I recommended that we continue on with Betty Johnson as our clerk and Kathy Conrad as our deputy clerk.
Oh, very nice. Well, as always, every board meeting starts with Board of Education recognition. And this month, certainly no exception. Can you tell us about this?
Well, we always do these monthly awards, and our board wants our staff and our volunteers to know how much they are appreciated. So our certified employee of the month is somebody that you happen to know pretty well.
I know her very well.
Miss Amber Akins, actually Sean's daughter. She is a teacher, our methods and resource teacher at Union, and also our compliance coordinator, and does a great job. So
yeah, I'm so proud of her.
I'm sure you are.
Yeah,
we're proud of her too.
Right.
Our support employee of the month for March is Leanne Allen, and she is our encumbrance clerk here at the board. So she takes care of all of our POs and does that kind of thing. Been a long time an employee, and it was good to recognize Leanne. Our friend of education was Dawn Anson, and she is a Woodlands PTA, and she does so many things for Woodland. She volunteers, and she actually does some subbing over there as well. And while we're on that topic, we usually have students present. For March, we had our Woodlands Challenge students come out and present, and their teacher is Mrs. Anne Marie Nielsen, and they shared some great challenge STEM activities that they're doing in their challenge class and demonstrated, and they did a great job.
Fantastic. Well, this month's Board of Education meeting included the superintendent's report. 3 important items on that list. Can you take us through your report?
Sure. I'll go through 2 of those pretty quickly. In late February, House Bill 1020XX was signed into law by Governor Mary Fallin. And this was the bill that would rebalance the budget to actually fill the deficit, and state agencies across the board had to take a cut. So to Common Ed alone, that cut was over $16 million, and which actually averaged about $13 per weighted ADM, average daily membership, for our students. And how that affected Ponca City is on March 7th, our state aid was cut $113,000. That's the bad news. Good news is our general fund spending was up about $475,000 from last year. The spending wasn't up, the balance was up. So that offset that balance of $475,000. So in short, we're still up, but that $113,000 cut certainly wasn't pleasant.
Right. Well, let's talk about what a lot of people are talking about, and that's the potential for a teacher's strike here in the state of Oklahoma. And what does that mean for Ponca City Public Schools? Well, we go straight to the source here, Superintendent of Ponca City Public Schools, Shelley Arrott. And if you could answer some questions, what is a potential walkout quickly becoming a walkout,
a reality,
and this is where we are.
It is, and let me tell you why we are at this spot. As you know, Sean, and we've talked about this, and I know you've heard it and read it in the news. Education is really suffering in Oklahoma. We haven't had a funding increase. In fact, our funding has been continually cut since 2008. Our teachers haven't had a raise in 10 years. And this impending walkout is not just about a raise. It is about funding education. Some of our students that are in 8th grade have faced a cut every single year that they've been in school. And when schools take cuts, that means we reduce programs, we cut positions, and as a result, we have large class sizes and not as many opportunities for our students. But what this has really resulted in is an extreme teacher shortage in Oklahoma. This is my 35th year in education, and when I first interviewed for a job 35 years ago, there may have been 50 candidates for any position, and I worried about getting a job. And at this point in time in Oklahoma, education candidates can basically interview the school they want to work for if they even want to stay in Oklahoma. They can go to any of our bordering states and make more money because we are 50th in teacher pay in Oklahoma. And in fact, there are classrooms all over the state that are unfilled, and I worry every single day about filling our positions for next year.
Well, there are some questions that naturally people will have, and we will want to try to get as many of those answered as possible on this program. And not all of the questions, I'm sure there are questions we're going to miss, but how does school closing with a teacher strike, how's that going to affect graduating seniors?
Well, first of all, let's go back to teacher strike. There's some questions. Can teachers strike legally? No, those are illegal. If it's a local bargaining unit against a local board. And this is not just our bargaining unit, our teachers striking against our board. Let's say that we were in impasse when we were negotiating. This is the entire state of Oklahoma walking out on the Oklahoma legislature. And this happened before in 1990 when House Bill 1017 was approved in those days. And the Attorney General's opinion at this time, this is not a local bargaining unit striking on a local board. This is a statewide teacher walkout against the Oklahoma legislature.
So strike really isn't the proper word.
Strike is not the correct term. It is a teacher walkout. So, and people are calling it strike for short, but technically it's not, because a teacher strike against a local board is illegal.
Yeah, so, and thanks for the reminder. That in 1990.
It was 1990, and I actually walked at the Capitol. I had been teaching just about 5 years at that time, so 5 or 6 years.
Just if this does happen, here's a good question. How long do you think it'll last? We watched it happen in other places in the country.
That's right.
It didn't last too long.
That's what we don't know. I know you've seen the news lately. OEA has made the demands to the legislature that they needed to come up with a plan to fund common education, to the adding $213 million and them having a $10,000 raise over 3 years, with $6,000 of that in this next school year. A raise for our educational support employees, a $5,000 raise for our educational support employees, and then they also had some requests for state employees. So I know that the legislature has been meeting late and likely on weekends to try to come up with some plans, and nothing has passed yet.
Right.
So it's anybody's guess how long this may last. And I will tell you this, our teachers, our administrators, our board members, our parents, no one wants this to happen.
Right.
But here's the bottom line, we can't wait till March 30th to have a plan.
Yeah.
And should it happen. So we're trying to prepare that way. We could prepare 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. We could prepare a different plan for every day that we're out.
Right.
We just don't know.
Well, and some exceptional challenges given the time of year this could happen. But you've given a lot of thought, and the school district certainly ready, and I'm not alone. Every other school district in the state dealing with these same questions. What about graduating seniors?
That's a concern. We really want to think about our students, and some of our comments that we've heard is, how can teachers walk out on their students? They're not walking out on their students, they're walking out for their students, because our students' educational needs are suffering. And that was the first thing we thought about, was our graduating seniors. How will this affect them? Most of our seniors will have the credits they need to graduate at the end of this school year. There are a few, always every year, that won't have the credits at the end of the year. But we're going on with graduation the same date, whether they've met their 1,080 hours as required by the state. We can go ahead and graduate our seniors. They may have to come back and finish up their coursework, but it shouldn't affect them. And some of the calls that we've been having is, we have a family vacation planned, or whatever. We may be back in school, but their student will have walked with graduation, and it would just be like a regular absence if they have a trip planned and we're making up time in June.
Yeah.
We hope that we're not.
Right.
We have some flexibility in our calendar with our students. It's required that students have 1,080 hours of instruction. per year.
Well, other students who participate in the SHARE program, Pioneer Technology Center, concurrent enrollment, doing college courses, how does that affect them?
They are going to still have to attend those programs, and Pioneer Technology will not close because they serve adult students, and they just can't close. If we're closed, they will still be open. Our kids, they will send the share bus to pick up our students. If a student's enrolled in only Pioneer Technology courses, they will still attend there. And of course, universities are not closing. So if they're in concurrent enrollment, they will have to attend. And on us, when we close, we think about, I'm sure you've heard on the news that some schools aren't closing. Our union reps have polled our teachers, surveyed where they stand on this, and Zach Murray's our local president, and he is a biology teacher at the high school. Out of 350 survey responses, he received 330 responses back that yes, they were in favor of walking on April 2nd.
Okay.
So we can't function. We would be debilitated.
Right.
We're pretty vulnerable if we need 60 subs. We can't even fill all of our classrooms if we have 60 employees out. We couldn't support our students if we have that many out.
So if that occurs April 2nd, April 3rd is ACT testing. Is this going to affect the ACT?
Well, and that is a nationally set date, April 3rd. Timing's a little tough there, but what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and open and have a few staff members on board to administer those ACT tests. And ACT's changed a little bit over the years in the fact that it used to just be for college-bound students who took the ACT. Then last year, anyone who wanted to could take the ACT. And this year, it's the state test. So we have to test all of our juniors. So we're going to get as many in as we can. If we're closed on the 3rd, we're still hoping that we're not. And we've made arrangements to get those students in on the 3rd. And then those students that we can't get in on the 3rd, we will give them the ACT on the makeup date, which is the 24th. So it's taken some out-of-the-box thinking, getting some staff in, preparing. Our child nutrition program will prepare some box lunches for our students taking the ACT on the 3rd.
Good. Now, what about extracurricular activities, sporting events, things like that? Will those continue throughout this process? That
has been a big question across the state, and there's varying opinions on this. If our teachers are walking out on the legislature. Do we continue on with extracurricular activities or not? Something that you have to remember, our sponsors and our coaches for extracurricular activities have a different contract. It's called an extra duty contract. And if they don't meet those needs, then we can't pay them on that extra duty contract. And if you think about this, our orchestra group has a trip planned that they've done fundraising for. Parents have paid additional dollars for them to go to Dallas. If we're not participating in extracurricular activities, they would lose that opportunity. And that's the first week in April. So you kind of have to think about it like this. If we're out of school, we are going to make up those hours. We're required to. We have to have the 1080 hours. But our students will miss opportunities that they can't make up if we cancel extracurricular. And for this to be powerful, the entire state would have to do this, and some schools have decided they're going on with that extracurricular and some have not. But here's the thing, it won't do any good in isolation, so we don't want to take opportunities from our kids. We are going to make up school, but some of those opportunities cannot be made up.
Right. Just a couple of more questions for Superintendent Arrott. What about national testing, state national testing?
Our state testing.
State testing. Yeah,
state testing. Well, there have been a lot of questions. Can we just skip state testing? If we miss the window, it's a 2 or 3 week window.
Right.
The short answer is no. We receive federal dollars, all districts do, and there's strings attached to federal dollars, and one of those strings that are attached are state testing, and we receive $5 million in federal funds that we can't afford to lose. So we'll take guidance from the State Department when we see how long or if this walkout lasts.
All right. Last question, and there may be more questions, and of course, this is the last one we have for today's board wrap-up show. If school is closed with a walkout, does that time need to be made up for school days?
Absolutely. And there's two different pieces to this. Our students have to have 1,080 hours of instruction, and our teacher's contract is 185 days. So we have some wiggle room with our students. We have a snow day that's in April. We have a professional development day that we could change back to an instructional day, but it would require changing our calendar. And depending on the length of the walkout, we could have to come back after Memorial Day or maybe some days into June, as would our employees. And that's how strong the teachers feel about this. They know that they are going to have to make up their contract time that they've missed. Now, while we're on a walkout, the district, I will have to make the decision, will this debilitate our operations? Can we support our students? So this is an important for our public to know. We are only going to make that call one day at a time. So likely I will make that call on March 30th. It's Good Friday, the Friday before April 2nd. We should know we would know if it's been settled or not. So I will try to call for one day at a time, the evening before or the Friday before for a Monday. So parents are just going to have to treat it like a snow day. You can always find the information on the Ponca City Public Schools Facebook page, our website. Of course, we advertise with Team Radio, our local media outlets. So it could come back into session at any time. School, we could see that there's been a resolution or our teachers are going to be at school. But at this point, we are planning on closing school while the walkout is occurring.
Well, and you just mentioned streams of communication, different social media. What is your best recommendation for people to stay connected with what's happening?
If our parents have not downloaded the Ponca City Public Schools app, they need to download that. It's free. It's a free download with the Apple Store or Google Play, depending on your device. But we will send out a notification, which there will be a notification alert that comes through the app. They'll get an email, a text message. Then check your local media outlets and our website. It will be scrolling across the top, but I won't make that call in the morning. I will know the evening before what the legislature has done on that day. I don't want to make it in the morning so that parents can plan. Another thing that I might tell you, our local teachers association are working with community partners to find resources for our parents if they need childcare or help with meals while school's closed, because students have 2 meals with us, breakfast and lunch. So we know it's not going to be ideal, and our teachers above all do not want to do this, and none of us want it to happen, but our people need to be prepared. Our patrons need to be prepared for it to happen.
The state legislature, having watched this happen on the East Coast,
West Virginia.
what do you think? What kind of an impact do you think? I mean, of course, how do you know? You can't. But in your opinion, do you think this is something that they go, okay, this is super serious, and we have to act now? So this may not happen, but just you're prepared just in case.
Well, some things that I know is that they're meeting into the wee hours of the morning. There's been a few plans that have been discussed that haven't passed whichever chamber, the House or the Senate, for whatever reasons. But there are some serious discussions that haven't occurred in the past. I went to a meeting last week in Oklahoma City, and Joy Hoffmeister was there, our state superintendent of public instruction, and she said that they're scrambling at the Capitol. So
certainly. Well,
we'll see.
We're
hoping for the best.
Absolutely. That's all we can do, and being prepared.
One thing that I do want to let our patrons know, I take all calls from parents, and my staff take those calls as well. So feel free to call the district number at 580-767-8000, and we'll be glad to answer any questions. I did create a guidance for our parents in the style of frequently asked questions. It's on our Facebook page, it's on our website, and I also sent a letter to our community, our parents, and our staff, and it's posted on our multiple media outlets as well.
Fantastic. Superintendent Arrott, thank you.
Thank you.
That is going to do it for the March edition of the Board Wrap-Up Show. Very interesting issues here that haven't had in quite some time. So thank you for watching. I appreciate that. Until next time, I'm your host, Sean Anderson. For Superintendent Arrott, thank you for watching.